UFC this weekend. We're in Qatar. I've got some good fights on the card. A couple of debuts I'm looking forward to, and some other decent fights on there. Really, yeah. So I'll skim through the card, talk about the fights where I have a bit of interest, and then I'll show you my bet slip at the end. We did alright last week. There's a couple of fights what let us down. It was Chepe Mariscal and Sean Brady, but both good performances from their opponents, and I don't think it was hard to see it going like that one-sided really for both fights. But yeah, I'd say the Chepe Mariscal had some moments where he was causing damage to Pat Sabatini, but just got controlled a little bit too long, didn't he? And then Sean Brady just got smashed by Morales. So yeah, two fights what didn't go our way. We'll skip into this card now though. Cage Warriors is on this weekend as well. They got Friday and Saturday. I don't know why they're doing Saturday when UFC's on at like UK time as well. It's stupid, especially when there's no UFC next week either. Like, I don't know what they're thinking really there. So I'll probably be watching them both live, but I don't think other people will be. It's like they could have just put it on a weekend when there was no UFC, or when UFC was on, like early hours in the morning as per usual. But anyway, we'll get started with the card now. The first fight, I'm just going to skip this fight altogether because I don't really have any idea about these two fighters, and I'm not doing loads of tape, to be honest. I'm just going to give you the thoughts what I have on the fighters already. So next fight, we've got Nicholas Dalby versus Sajid Izagakamaev. Nicholas Dalby, he's 41 now. He's getting on, isn't he? That's old, that. Yeah, old that now for fighting. He's going up against Sajid, who's 31, and he's a massive favourite. That's another thing, right? What I'm doing with these videos, we're looking at just breaking down the fights where the odds are reasonable, and then we'll put the bet on at the end. If the odds are like way in favour of one person, unless you're looking at betting on the underdog, then there's no point really breaking it down. I do think Nicholas Dalby, as old as he is, he's been fighting alright, other than his last fight where he got finished by Randy Brown. He had a good fight with Renat Fakhretdinov before that. Gabriel Bonfim he beat, who's a decent opponent. Muslim Salikov, who's decent as well. And then Wally Alvarez, but you're going back to that fight. His opponent Sajid, it's his UFC debut. He's been fighting on one though for the last few fights, so decent level competition, but probably not the same level of competition what Nicholas Dalby's been fighting. However, I do think he should beat Dalby, although it will be a tough fight. So if you did want to have like a little punt on an underdog, Nicholas Dalby it's definitely reasonable to have a little gamble there. But there's a few other underdogs where you could do that on as well on this card. So yeah, I do think Sajid should win. Not seen too much of him, but he's been fighting decent guys, got a bit of a good reputation. Nicholas Dalby is getting on now, and he's coming off that brutal finish in his last fight to Randy Brown, so it's always going to be a little bit more challenging when you're coming back off a finish like that. So yeah, I do think Sajid should win, but it wouldn't surprise me if Nicholas Dalby won, or at least made the fight very close. So I'll probably leave that one off my bet. Next fight, you've got Nurullo Aliev versus Shamrock. A fight what I'm interested in watching, just because I like watching the local guys when they come into the UFC. Who doesn't, right? That's why I like watching Cage Warriors, because I feel like you can just get behind the fighters a little bit more personality as well. But I guess it's because you can relate to them a little bit. But yeah, so decent fight. Tough fight in his UFC debut against Aliev. Aliev's had some good performances in his last couple of fights, and yeah, he's a good fighter with a good reputation again. Shamrock though, he's a big underdog on this fight, and I feel like he's being a little bit discredited. He's got one of those personalities where he's going to show up for the occasion. I feel like he's one of those kind of fighters you get him where you've seen it on the weekend with your man who beat Malcolm Wellmaker. Showed up on the night, put on the performance of his life. I think some people, they fight to the level, right? So the better guys you fight, the better performances you're going to put on, and I feel like Shamrock's probably one of those fighters. So I can definitely see him winning this fight. It is going to be risky though. I won't put it on my main accumulator, but like Dolby, it's another underdog where he's got his chance in the fight, and it's a fair chance. He's not out of it at all, and I feel like he could get his grappling going in this fight and steal some rounds. And I think his striking is probably underrated as well. He could cause a bit of damage, land a few elbows in the clinch, and I think he's got a good shot in this fight. So I wouldn't rule him off just because he's had some close fight in his last fight against a guy who's probably not as good. Like I say, some guys they fight to their level, so the better the opponent, the better performance you're going to put on. I don't even know if I'd say I think Aliyev's going to win. I just feel like it's going to be a good fight. It's going to be close, so I won't be against putting Shamrock on my accumulator. We'll have a look, see what odds we're getting at the end. Next fight, we've got Ryan Lauder versus Ismail Nadeev. Nadeev is in his second stint in the UFC now, and he's gone 2-3 in his last 5. Good opponent though in his last fight, Young Park. He's been doing alright, hasn't he? Beat Bruno Silva before that, and then he was fighting in Brave against whatever the competition is though. Lauder coming off a tough loss in his last fight against Asmat Bekwev, finished there, and a good finish over Robert Valentin, and I think that was the Ultimate Fighter finale. I didn't really even watch the Ultimate Fighter this time, to be honest. I don't really pay attention to it. Is anyone even watching it anymore? I don't know. But yeah, it's a tricky fight to pick. Lauder's the underdog, or he at least started as the underdog. I think it's more like evens now on the odds what I was looking at. So it's a bit too close to pick this fight. I'll probably leave it off, to be honest. I'm not as clued up on as I am some others. So next fight, you've got Bekzat Almakan versus Alexandre Topuria. He looked good in his last fight, Topuria, but he's not his brother, is he? That's what you got to remember when you're looking at Alexandre. He's not Ilya, and the level of competition what he was fighting before he come into the UFC is pretty bad, isn't it? Really, like atrocious. Like 7-18, 1-9, and then he fought this guy who was alright, regional level fighter in the UK at the time, but it's not great, is it? He had a really impressive performance against Colby, considering that was the level of fighters he was fighting before he come in. But I think Bekzat, he's on a different level than Colby Thickness. Like, he just beat Brad Katona in his last fight, and Brad Katona's no mug, man. That way, he won the Ultimate Fighter twice. He's a decent fighter, Brad Katona. And then he lost against Umar before that, who's like top of the food chain bantamweight. So I feel like Bekzat's definitely had like 100 times the level of fighters what Topuria's had in his career. And he's looked good so far. He did alright against Umar. He didn't get blown out the water, so I feel like you got to go Bekzat in this one, especially at the odds, even odds. You got to favour Bekzat in this fight. Don't get me wrong, Topuria did look good in his last fight, but he's not Ilya, and I feel like when he starts coming up against these top level fighters in the division, he's gonna come short, I think. Next fight, you got Kyoji Horiguchi versus Tagir Ulanbekov. Ulanbekov, he's on a win streak at the minute, 4 fights, lost to Tim Elliott before that. He's had some tough fights in those fights though, even that last fight against Azat Maxim, he didn't make easy work of it, and I think like Maxim's just gone on to lose since then, hasn't he, in his last fight. Beat Clayton Carpenter before that, who's like a highly touted grappler, who's looking good, so that's a good win. And then Cody Durden, but Durden's like a mid-level fighter, isn't he? He's nothing special. And yeah, so he's doing alright to gear, but Kyoji Horiguchi is a step up. He is getting on. He's 35, but Tagir's 34. More miles on the clock though for Horiguchi, definitely. But he's definitely a step up in competition compared to the guys who Ulanbekov's been facing, and he's a proven winner as well. He's coming in 4-1 no contest in his last 5. And he's had some good wins including Sergio Pettis. Sergio Pettis beat him before that, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, it might be someone else. But Pettis just looked good, didn't he, against Magomedov in that last fight what he had. So good win for him there, and I feel like Kyoji Horiguchi should get this one done. He's a slight underdog as well. I think it'll be a close fight. I don't think it's gonna like steamroll him or anything. But I think he's a lot better than Azat Maxim, and he gave him a run for his money in the last fight. So yeah, I'd say Kyoji Horiguchi should get it done, but we'll have a look at the odds a little bit later when we're putting our bet on. Next fight, Abdul Rahman Yakiev versus Rafael Sakura. No point even looking at this one because he's like 1-12, Yakiev, and Rafael Sakura's got no business being here at this point. If he wins, it'll be a big surprise, won't it? So we'll skip that fight to the next fight. Luke Riley versus Bogdan Grad. Now, if you could bet on fight of the night, this has got it written all over it, because Riley, he's always in a scrap. If you watch Cage Warriors, you know what he's about. And then Bogdan Grad, he's a decent fighter as well, definitely entertaining. So I think this is going to be a great fight. What I will say is Bogdan Grad's definitely been in with a tougher level competition than Riley. His last fight, decision loss against Naimov, and Naimov's no joke. He's been doing good things. Before that, a few other guys, well, you could argue not the highest level competition, but he's been in there with some good guys, Bogdan Grad, and he's good. He's got alright striking, he's alright grappling, he's alright everywhere, and he's tough. He has been finished a few times, but I think against good guys like Tom Nolan, who's doing good things now as well in the UFC. Luke Riley, highly touted coming in, rightly so as well. He's a very entertaining fighter. What I will say though, in a lot of these fights he's getting cracked, sometimes even dropped, and I do think Bogdan Grad has got some power though, like similar to the guys who are dropping Luke Riley. But I do think Luke Riley will get this one done. I think he'll pull through and put on a very entertaining fight. I could see Next Gen going 2-0 on this card, to be honest. They've got the momentum with them at the minute, and yeah, both really good fighters. I think it'll be a great fight nonetheless, but I'm not sure if I'll put Luke Riley on at -260. Nearly a 1-3 favourite, because I think like Bogdan Grad's definitely got the ability to catch you with a shot and then maybe get like a rear naked choke or something. So I do think Riley will win. I want him to win, but I think there's definitely a risk like Bogdan Grad's well in this fight, so I won't be putting it on at that odds, probably not anyway. So next fight, we've got Alex Perez versus Asu Almabayev. Alex Perez, he's been out of the octagon a while now, and even before that, he's been having these long breaks in between with injuries and stuff like that. He's won 1 and lost 4 in his last 5 against really good level competition. Look like Davison Figueiredo, Pantoja, Makayev, and then Tatsuro Taira before that, or after that even, and then a win over Mateus Nicolau. So he's 1 and 4 in his last 5, but really high level fighters he's been losing against. Asu Almabayev beat Jose Ochoa in his last fight. I think I might have gone Ochoa on that one because Ochoa was doing good things. Lost to Manel Cap. I think that was a late notice fight. Maybe I'm mistaken. And then a few wins before that. I think it's going to be another close fight. Generally, they are at flyweight when you have 2 high level fighters. I can't see Almabayev finishing Alex Perez. And vice versa, I don't think Perez is going to finish Almabayev. I would slightly lean with Asu Almabayev in this fight, but I'm not sure if I'll put it on because, like I say, I don't think he'll blow Alex Perez out the water. And he's decent, Alex Perez, for as inactive as he has been. He's still a really good fighter, so it'll be interesting to watch this fight. I've not got a clear pick on it. I need to go back to doing the Topology predictions as well. Like Almabayev, massive favourite on Topology, so take that for what you will. But yeah, not a major pick on that fight. So next fight we'll go on to Sergey Spivak versus Shamil Gaziev, or Gaziev, however you want to pronounce it. Spivak, he's been around and he's fought most of the top heavyweights in the division. coming off 2 losses against 2 guys who are doing really well. And Gelson Almeida lost his last fight against Volkov, but arguable decision. Beat Tybur before that, who's just like a shell of his former self. He seems to be getting beaten by everyone at the minute. And then lost to Tsarukyan, and then beat Derek Lewis before that. He's decent, Spivak. He's been around, but I think Gaziev, he's on the come up. He's got a bit of momentum behind him. Lost to Rosenstruik, but like not a terrible loss, and a few good wins before that. I feel like Gaziev should get this one done. It's heavyweight MMA, so anything can happen. But I do feel like Gaziev could catch him on the feet and put Spivak down maybe, and then or just at least squeak out a decision. Spivak, I think he'd have to finish Gaziev to get the win here, and I feel like that'd be a tough test over 3 rounds to do that. I can't see him like outpointing Gaziev on the feet or anything like that, or holding him down long enough to get the win there. So yeah, I do think Gaziev should win, but it'll be interesting, won't it? Heavyweight MMA. So we'll leave that to the end. We'll have a look at the odds. Next fight, this is an interesting fight. Jack Hermansson's coming down to 170 against Mickey Orelby. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his first name. I'm just going to call him Mickey. Jack Hermansson, good fighter, but he's coming off a big KO loss to Gregory Rodriguez in his last fight. But he had a good win over Pfeiffer before that. Controlled him. Lost to Delidze. Beat Chris Curtis before that. Lost to Sean Strickland, but split decision. Orelby as well. He's fought at lightweight before, right? So Hermansson's coming down to welterweight. I'm not sure if he's fought at welterweight before. Definitely, I don't think so in the UFC. I think he's pretty much, if not always, been at middleweight. For the majority of it, it's been at middleweight. And Orelby's fought at lightweight before, so I think Hermansson's definitely going to be the bigger guy. But it's how does he make the weight? Is he going to have a healthy cut? Is he going to be dehydrated going into it? And he's coming off a finish as well. Is he going to get finished again? I think that's the interesting thing about this fight is like how Hermansson's going to look after the weight cut, because he's going to be a big guy in there compared to Orelby. And someone made this point actually the other day. I don't know if it was Dominic Cruz or something. They were saying about 180, the middleweight division, 185, however it is. Is it 185? Anyway, there's a bigger gap in between the weights than the other weights, you know what I mean? So you get some small middleweights, and then you get some massive middleweights, and Hermansson's been in there with some big middleweights. Like, just look at Rodriguez and Joe Pfeiffer. Like, these guys who he's been in with are going to be a lot bigger than Orelby, but then you've got the lighter man skill in Orelby as well, or speed advantage. Is that going to play a factor? It's an interesting fight, and I think Hermansson's an underdog in it as well. Yeah, almost a 2-1 underdog, so I wouldn't be against taking a risk putting it on Hermansson, but you just don't know how he's going to look after the weight cut. And that KO, that was only 4 months ago. You know what I mean? Is it enough time to recover, especially when you put a weight cut on top of that as well? So I'll probably leave him off, but I wouldn't be surprised if Hermansson looked good in this fight. So yeah, we'll see about that one. Next fight, Volkan Ozdemir versus Alonzo Menifield. I think this is a tailor-made fight for Volkan Ozdemir, to be honest. I think he should get the finish here against Menifield. Menifield's decent. He's a pressure fighter, and I feel like Volkan, he uses that to his advantage, and he'll find a counter shot here on Menifield as he's coming in. Menifield, though, he has been like kickboxing a little bit more, hasn't he, in his last few fights, trying to keep it stand up. Before that, I do remember the fights he had with who was it now he fought, and it was like pretty good fights, to be honest. I'll have to skim it. Jimmy Crute, didn't he? He had like a little 2 fights with Jimmy Crute, were really entertaining fights, and he did well in there. But I just feel like he's going to walk onto a shot here with Volkan Ozdemir, so I'm pretty confident in that pick. We'll probably put it on, we'll see what the odds are. Next fight, Belal Muhammad versus Ian Gary. I feel like Ian Gary beats Belal pretty easily, to be honest. I can't see Muhammad getting him down and controlling him for too long in the rounds without Ian Gary causing damage in the rounds, and I think he'll just beat him by decision. I think he'll land more damage. I think Muhammad will find it harder to take him down than he thinks, and then I can see Ian Gary landing some nice clinch work, some clinch knees and stuff like that. He's got decent judo as well. I think he was a judoka before he got into MMA, Ian Gary was, so he'll have a good base. I think he'll be hard to take down, and I think he'll chip away and land some good shots on Muhammad and win by decision. Maybe even catch him on the feet if Belal gives him enough space. And I feel like Belal, he has a lot of confidence in his boxing, doesn't he? But he ain't going to get close enough to use it on Gary. Gary's going to be keeping him at the end of the range, and if he does try to box from outside, then he's going to get head kicked as well. So I think Gary wins this fight pretty comfortably, to be honest, and then perhaps even goes on to fight for the title in his next fight. I think he deserves it, to be honest. So that's that one. And then the main event, we've got Arman Tsarukyan versus Dan Hooker. I think Arman beats Dan Hooker, to be honest. I can't really see how Dan Hooker's going to beat Arman Tsarukyan unless he steals a decision, but it's 5 rounds, isn't it? So I just feel like Tsarukyan's going to get enough of the rounds and then potentially even get a sub as well on Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker's good, he's a brawler, isn't he? But I feel like that's going to play into Arman Tsarukyan's hands as well, and he'll get some nice takedowns, some nice control damage, and then potentially even a sub though as well. I can't really see how Dan Hooker wins this fight, but he's a massive favourite in this Tsarukyan, so I'll probably leave it off anyway. Alright, let's have a quick look at the bets, see what I can put on. So massive favourite is Yakayev, so we'll probably leave that off. Bekzat Almakhan versus Topuria, we're going to go Almakhan on that. Horiguchi versus Tageo Bekov, we'll go Horiguchi. Even though he has got more miles on the clock, I can see him winning the decision now. He's got a massive experience advantage over Bekov and fought a tougher competition. It's just whether he's slowed down a little bit now, but he's only a year older than Tageo. Next fight, Luke Riley versus Bogdan Grad. Like I said, I'd probably go Luke Riley, but not at these odds. I think Bogdan Grad definitely could catch him and get a finish there, so we'll leave that off. Next fight, we skip that one. Nurilo Aliyev versus Shamrock. Like I was saying, Aliyev does look like on paper he should get the win, but I feel like Shamrock could show up on the night and just, I can see it there. It's one of those stories what's kind of already written. I think he's gonna be an entertaining fighter in the UFC, so I could see Shamrock getting the win, but probably leave it off just to negate the risk. Next fight, Loda versus Ismail Nordiev. Leave that one off, even though it would be a good fight to bet on if you had a good insight into it, but I've just not watched enough of that Ryan Loda, to be honest. And I remember seeing Ismail Nordiev, but nothing sticks with me from him, to be honest. Next fight, we've got Dolby versus Izagak Maev. Like I was saying, Dolby potentially could steal it there, but I can't see it, to be honest. Not worth, unless you want to take a risk on him, not worth putting it on. Next fight, Alex Perez versus Almabayev. Another close fight. Almabayev, he's like a 1-2 favourite. Probably right, justified them odds, considering Alex Perez is 1-4 in his last 5, but that's against top level competition. But I do think Almabayev will get the win now. So maybe we'll put that on. We'll come back to it in a second, see what other odds we get. Belal Muhammad versus Ian Gary. I feel like Ian Gary's going to get the win. Do we put it on though at them odds? We'll see. Jack Hermansson versus Orobai. Like I said, I do think Hermansson might have some massive advantages, but 4 months after he just got brutally KO'd, coming down in weight, I think there's quite a bit going against him. But I wouldn't be surprised if he wins this fight, so I'm better off watching that one, I reckon. Sergey Spivak versus Shamil Gaziev. Or Gaziev. We're going with Shamil Gaziev, slight favourite. And then Volkan Ozdemir against Alonso Menifield. We'll go with Volkan. Armin Tsarukyan versus Hooker. We'll go with Tsarukyan, but not at them odds. It's unplayable when it gets like that. So what have we put in Gary on here? That bumps us up like 40 quid. Almabayev. There we go. So that's a 6-fold. Yeah, let's go with that. Little 6-fold there. You could get more odds, obviously, if you've put like Shamrock on, you're getting near £1,000, but play it relatively safe. Not like they ever come in these 6-folds. I think I've won like 1 or 2 this year, so probably more chance of cashing on our Cage Warriors accumulated this week. I'll do the video for that tomorrow. Yeah, there's a double event, so it's Friday and Saturday, so I'm sure we'll get some good odds for some of them fights, hopefully, and then we'll make some money there. But with the UFC, it's high level MMA, anything can happen. But we've got Bekzat Almakhan, Kyoji Horiguchi, Shamil Gaziev, Volkan Ozdemir, Ian Gary, and Asu Almabayev, and that gets us 250 back off a tenner. Yeah, we'll put Ian Gary on. So yeah, 250 back off a tenner. Can't argue with that. We'll be putting that on. Good luck. If you're still here, subscribe, like, and keep an eye out for my Cage Warriors video, what I'll be doing tomorrow, and I'll see you then.